Thank you very much for attending today's Raising Safe Digital Citizens. I'd just start by introducing myself. My name is Nina Boal, and you can see Michelle is there on the screen as well. She's my co-founder. We are Cyberlite. You can go and look at cyberlite.org while we're speaking, and I'll tell you more about what we're expecting today. We have worked very hard at Cyberlite to really work with everyone on the education of our children. We work with children from the ages of 7 to 17 years of age, not just in Singapore, but we do so across Asia. And in doing so, we've really identified where we believe our children need our cyber education. And now, as things move on, as they always do, AI safety as well. So these are the key areas that I'm just going to show you, but trust me, it won't be a dry presentation of graphs, but I just want you to get a real understanding of where we start and how we should move on. But this will be more of an interactive workshop. So I will ask you, if you do have your children's devices around you, feel free to pop them on the table, because you can actually put a lot of what I'm saying into action straight away. Grab yourself a pen or paper or a notebook. There are a piece of a device that we will give you that you can implement and really use this time to do all of the work. Because if you're like me, you're busy and you will want to do this later and it may never get to it. I will also refer to my own children a lot in terms of what I do and how I navigate the cyber world as a parent. And I'll give you a full reference to start the ages of my kids. They're 12, 13, and 7. So hopefully that will give you some understanding about some of the digital parenting and behaviors that I've adapted. We will try and cover all 6 of the key topic areas we believe your children should know about within the cyber safety framework. And so I will get started with, first of all, discussing what kind of digital parent do you aim to be? In fact, we found through our work and statistically, most children or parents only spend 46 minutes, the entire lifetime of the child, talking about cyber safety. While if you think about the amount of time your children are spending online, they are actually spending a much of their day or their educational period using a device. So it's not measuring up. Now, why is it we don't talk about cyber safety with our children? It's not because we don't have a will to do so. It's not because we don't care about our children. It's because it's not innate to us. We parent very much knowing how our parents parented us. We either want to parent just like them or nothing like them. And we've made some decisions around that and really navigated what we want to do and the outcome we're looking for as parents. Not that we always achieve the desirable outcome, but we can't really all look back at our parents and understand how did they do it. I did not get the internet into my life until my 20s. And so my parents had done much of the hard graft before that. So I've had to sit down and discover what type of digital parent I want to be. And we've really looked at it as Cyberlite and said, okay, what type of digital parents are there that we can sort of navigate? So we've come up with these 3. The protector, the digital ally, and the coach. The protector is the parent who puts on all the protections, is the parent at the age of 3 when someone says, my child doesn't use a device at all, and then starts to give them slowly apps that they can see and that they feel like they're comfortable with. They do so with all the parental settings in there, and they really safeguard them. And there'll be a lot of parents nodding at this. And my guess is your children are under the age of 13 if you are still nodding. Parents like me who have children over the age of 13 have stopped nodding because you realize that your children have gone over the age of compliance. They're not listening to us, and they've seen a lot from their friends as well. So as much as we are the protector, we can't protect them all the time. They're seeing things on the school bus, on the way to school, in the playground. And so we now have had to convert to being a digital ally. The digital ally actually gives advice, gives them critical thinking, and makes them understand why we're making parental decisions on their behalf. That's a place where we often are when they're 9 to 15 years of age. And then we're the coach. they come to us when they need us. And we've already, through our parenting, told them, you can come to us when these situations happen. We will be there to support you. And they know the boundaries and they know when to come and when they will be in trouble, but they will be in a comfortable scenario anyway. The other thing about these 3 digital parents is often you apply these to different children at different times. Some of my children are already ready to be digitally coached on some apps because they really get it. Others, I have to still be a protector, even though they're a lot older, because I just know they're not ready for that digital space. So first of all, just give yourself some time to consider, where are you on your digital parenting journey? Where would you like to be? And are you ready? And do you have the strategy to go up in terms of your style as your child grows? I'll just pause here because I forgot to say, we will do a question, a panel right at the end. So do put those questions in the box and we'll refer to them at the end. Thank you. So once you've decided or really understood the type of digital pairing style you want to do, you want to really navigate your child's cyberspace. All our cyberspaces look incredibly different. My husband's algorithm are incredibly different. When I see what he's been served through TikTok and what I get served, they don't match. So the same is true of my children. My 13-year-old and 12-year-old have very different tastes. And so where they are in their digital world is incredibly different. I want you to just take your time to think, what does your child's cyberspace looks like? If you have more than one child, just jot down in columns, where are they spending their time? What apps are they on? 50% of parents do not know where their children are in terms of the apps or the infrastructure. And when they're in that app, who they may be communicating or what they're seeing. So much like the real world, when we take our children out to the playground, we will scan, we will see what's around us, we will look out for anything that looks of concern. We need to be doing this again in their digital worlds. We need to be able to scan, see, and look where they need to avoid any risk. Within the presentation, I will go through the apps and highlight the risks we see in them. While I'm saying that, I'm not asking for any of you to delete the apps your children are on. It's a case of making sure that we've put the locks and we've put the keys in place, that they know how to keep themselves safe while they are on their apps. Of course, there are some apps that we will say, this is not advisable for your children to be on, but that again is down to your parenting decision. So first, if you carry on writing down where you think your children are online, and after this, you can go and speak to them on that. In terms of your children being part of this presentation, we will go into risks. We will go into issues your children will see. I do not want to be somebody who exposes them to things they may not know. So best they don't watch this presentation and that you talk to them about it afterwards, because there are some scenes and some slides we would not want younger children to view. So going back to your children's digital space, once your children are in their space, I want us as parents to understand, why are they there? To critically think, why do our children love Roblox so much? Why do they ask for Snap all the time? Why is YouTube so desirable for the younger generation? All I want to think about is, where are they hanging out online? And who are they communicating to? And who's communicating to them while they're in their digital space? So for example, once you get an app, your child is on there, and the first thing they'll say to you is, it's because it's fun, it's entertaining, my friends are there. But the motivation of the app also we need to critically think through. Why does that app want your child to be on it? Is it merely to have fun, to speak to their friends, to enjoy themselves? Of course, there's much more to it. As soon as your child, say their name is John, is on the app, they no longer have the name John. They have become a user. They have become a data point. And now the app itself is going to generate advertising dollar on top of that. They are going to become a data analyst. Influencers will know that your child is sitting in that area and they will want to communicate with them. And not all people online are good. You will find phishers and scammers, and you'll find a lot of ulterior motivations to speak into your child. So the next thing we need to really consider are what are the good motivations on these apps and what are the bad motivations. So the apps that you've written down, we will look through what's good and positive around those apps and what are bad. Now, there are so many incredibly goods out there. My children right now are on a device, so they're not screaming while I'm doing this presentation. There has a benefit to having the device, which I don't know how my parents got through long car journeys without them. But there are so many negatives that we need to give airtime to, and we need to understand the harm that comes with them. Singapore has invested heavily into looking at how we use our apps, how our children are exposed, and the MCI published some data on this. And it's interesting to see 65% of Singaporeans have experienced harmful content. 22% have seen promotions of illegal activities. 29% have encountered cyberbullying. Now, actually, when we drill down that stat and we look at our children, that drives up to 60%. It's an incredibly high number that if we don't work hard, is not reversing. So we need to make sure this becomes a reversible figure. 51% of us are using parent controls. That means a lot aren't. I will explain why we are not. And again, this will be the parent of the 13-year-old up who will understand why this is happening. And as I said before, we are on average spending 46 minutes talking to our child. Let me put that in perspective. We have seen groomers and pedophiles sharing 2,000-page PDFs supporting each other in knowing how to get to our children. And we on the other side are having very, very broad stroke conversations. So we need to go deeper. And that's what I'd like to do with you. So I'm going to start with YouTube. It's an app that we all have as part of our lives. Our children are all on YouTube in some manner. Even if you've blocked it yourself, they will have seen things on it. It's part of our cultural discourse. And so we really have to understand the pros and the cons behind the app. The first thing that I want us to really understand is how we parent on this app, going back to those 3 parenting styles. Now, let me give you an example. When I had my children first, I would often use YouTube as a gateway of entertainment. I would put them on there and I would go over to the BBC thinking that I was controlling an algorithm and making sure that they were watching things that was pertinent to my values and my life. I was ensuring that I had picked the content I wanted my children to see. I would sit them in front of the BBC and they would watch programs from there. Little did I think through that my little 3 or 4-year-old had the attention span of an ant, and they had clicked off 13 times into other areas of YouTube. I had allowed the algorithm to take over, and back to the motivation of the app, the motivation of the app started to come into play. So now the app wants my child to see things that will generate advertising dollar, will drive influencers up. Influencers were clickbaiting my children, and they were ending up in places that I didn't want them to be in. They were watching things like Cocomelon, which actually is material which is very bright, very rhythmic. So if you have young children who are sitting in a trance-like feeling, just watching YouTube, you will know that they have been put in a trance by the influencer or the technology, and they're just viewing for influencer dollar. You have bad influence out there who are trying to crack YouTube Kids algorithm and get through content that me and you as adults know can be disturbing and incredibly wrong, but can still get you through the YouTube Kids algorithm because they've made it look kiddish. There is a lot of content there that can get through. Please remember that things on YouTube cannot, by the fact that there's so much on there, be all seen by the human eye. So it's, again, technology that's doing the filtering for us. So we need to take some control back when we're looking at YouTube. How do we do that? So my top tips when I'm talking about YouTube is, first of all, go over and subscribe to the channels that you feel match with your value system. You don't mind your children watching or seeing, and you like them. Do that subscription at any age of your child, because then your value system is coming back into their viewing. Block channels. My 7-year-old can end up down a tunnel of watching the same type of content from the same influencer. I want to switch that off for a while, because I don't want one type of thinking to be part of his echo chamber. I also use, because of my children's different ages, the feature explore more. So you can go over to your settings in YouTube and give them the ability to have exploration rights or privileges depending on their age and their behavior, giving them more independence as they grow up. The important thing here is that you've already told YouTube your child is a kid. If your child is using your YouTube, the piece of technology is treating them like an adult. So they will always be given adult content. And that way you're not telling, the person looking after your child, the age and the appropriate content for that child. So set up a profile for your child to ensure that the technology knows your child's age. And that's true of every app I will talk to or talk to you about. And then set timers. The thing with YouTube is your children can get into a trance. How do you know your child is in a trance? I always say, when I take the iPad off my child and they shout at me and they're like, no, you've got to give it back. That's when I know they were in a trance. They weren't in a place where they were negotiating. They were just animalistic. So set timers so your child can go back to their physical body, know they're hungry, know they're tired, and stop watching. That's a very important thing to do. The other thing we want our children to learn from an incredibly young age, and we at Cyberlite go into classrooms as young as 5 years old to ensure that they protect their personal information. It's very much the case now that people often say, well, it's all out there. Why do we need to worry about it? And our information gets leaked quite readily. But do remember, if you have children who are 15, 16 years of age, and I already can work out what school they go to, what their address is, what their maiden name is, what their pet's called, I only need 3 years of patience before I can open credit cards in their names. Their data matters. It will be used for digital identity theft when they're older. It can expose them to a lot of digital harm. We need to start protecting it. And parents, the first thing we have to ensure is we're not allowing their photos to go out publicly without your consent, and getting them to understand that consent of photos is incredibly important. As they get older and teenagers, the number one question we get asked is, what do I do about my nudes? They're out there, I can't get them back. This has been normalized to send photos of each other, especially with our boys, of nudes. We need to bring that conversation back to our parenting and say, no, consent is required when receiving or sending a photo. When we're talking about revealing our information, one of the apps I'd like to talk about is TikTok. TikTok in Singapore is only allowed for 13 years and above. So that's already great. We don't have to worry about our younger children on the app. The important thing is when we do download TikTok for our children, that we tell TikTok the age of our child. What they do is they then put them in a room away from the adults. Not a physical room, but if we think of the cyberspace, a cyber room, and say, right, we know this child is now 13. We will ensure they are served content and only liaise with people they know. They will treat them as a child. Often we allow them to set up their accounts as 18 years of age and then expect the technology to treat them as younger. We can't do that. We need to put those initial boundaries into play. We then need our children to understand critically through what are we posting and are we doing it for just validation and likes. A lot of our young children and our teenagers are moving to technology for validation. We now know we're loved because somebody likes our post. I am no different. When I post something on my channel, I go over to see how many people have viewed it. But I can only imagine what that's like when a 12-year-old puts something up and is looking for the love to come back. So we have to say to children, what are you posting? What's your motivation? And it could go either way. They need to start understanding that. And their digital footprint matters. We know that universities go check for our children's digital footprint, and they're often confused when they can't find it. That's also a red flag. So positive footprints and talking about them are really important. The other thing with TikTok is it has a lot of parent control in there. In fact, I prefer TikTok to Reels on YouTube, where I can't control their viewing. I don't know what's happening. It's just open on a browser for them to see. TikTok will allow you to have a lot more control. If you have your child's device in front of you and they're age appropriate, go download the family pairing app. That gives you a lot of insight and control to your child's viewing and what they're utilizing on TikTok. You can, again, put their screen time in. Remember, and I'll go into this a bit more later, but all technology is made to be addictive. An average adult clicks on their phone over 700 times a day. Me and you as habit will always reach for our phone. I'm sure many of you are using another device to do something while listening to me. It's become intuitive. So we have to remember that that's true of our children. They need guidelines, they need tools to stop them and look up. So feel free to turn on screen time on everything. It's very important. And there's other controls that you can see what your children are seeing. A beautiful thing is you can reset their algorithm. So if they're seeing too much of something you don't think is good, you can ensure that that stops as well. The big thing is this all only works if you're actually on the apps with them. So a family that scrolls together stays together. Go on that app with your child and ensure that you view and see what they're seeing. Ask them what's influencing you, what do you enjoy, what's happening in the world of TikTok. I assure you they love talking about it. And at the moment in Singapore, it's all Taylor Swift. So you can get a lot of Taylor Swift content. The next app, and talking about how we share way too much online and we really need to critically think through, is Snapchat. Snapchat is huge with the 13-year-olds and up, and you can utilize this thinking with whatever app you've written down for your child's usage. There is a lot of asking our children to expose a lot of information for the app's motivation, not for our child. Our child doesn't need these habits in their life. So one of them is the Snap map. This is a map that is on the app, which allows everyone to know where each other is at all times of the day. Now, what I say to the kids when I go in the class is, are your friends ever in a place where you wouldn't have expected them to be? Are they ever anywhere new? Probably not, right? They're all doing the same things on the same day. So you really do not need to be tracked. This is information you're giving the app that is not really supporting or helping you. Snap also has a feature called the Snap Streak. This is really going back to that FOMO, that whole playground behavior of who likes who. So I could have a very good Snap Streak with Michelle and would show that we are BFFs, best friends forever. But I could have a lesser one with another friend and that could make them feel bad. I've seen children wake up in the middle of the night to keep their Snap Streak up. I've heard people not wanting to go on their school residential because they have to leave the phone behind and their Snap Streak would be destroyed. It becomes a bad habit and negative behavior. The other thing about Snap, we need to have critical thinking through when our children ask for Snap. Snap is made successful by the fact that you can post a picture and then it disappears. It ghosts at a certain time. Obviously, people can take a screenshot, so it's not true those actually disappear. The foundation of Snap is the sexting app for sending nude pictures. If your children do not understand how it can be used negatively, they're not ready for the app. We need to have conversations about it so they know how to use it wisely. There are some fun features, some great filters, but there are also some scary ones. There's anonymous chat where many children are cyberbullied. So before giving children things like TikTok, Snap, and as you go up the parenting ladder, make sure you give them critical thinking conversations like, what's your favorite feature in Snap? Have you heard of anything negative about Snap? What problems could you get into? If they don't know the answer to this one, they're not ready. You need to talk to them about it so they're aware of the negative things and what people may ask them to do on the app and where they should set their own boundaries. Moving forward, I just want to speak about one app you would not expect me to speak on, because if you're anything like me, Pinterest is where you are designing your perfect world, the great cocktail, the menu. Why would it be a bad app? Pinterest is somewhere where people overshare content. If your child is very much into sport or very much into influencing, they may have a Pinterest page. Unfortunately, people with bad motivation can use your child's picture to create pages for groomers that puts these photos into a different context. Before last year, Pinterest didn't have an age verification. Most of the apps will either tell you under 13 or over 13 is the age that children can start onboarding. Pinterest didn't have that, but now the app says you cannot use it until the age of 13 because of the negative motivation behind many of the boards. There are boards that are there just sharing pornography or sharing escorts or OnlyFans people. So be careful about your children using this app. And if they do go to it a lot, ask them why, what are they looking at, what are they viewing, and have a look at their own curated pages. I'm going to move forward now onto a new topic, but please do add some questions if you want to on what I've already discussed. We're now moving into the conversation about gaming. Gaming is huge. It is not going away. And in Singapore, we have had a lot of data collected again by the MCI about our children and gaming. There's a lot of positives to gaming. The data also, if you go over and check on the internet, add a lot of positives, how it adds a lot of value to our children's lives. But as we're talking about risk today, I've honed in on the risk. 36% of children admitted speaking to strangers. Now, in reality, I go into classrooms on a weekly basis, and I can tell you anecdotally away from this statistic, when I ask children, have they been speaking to strangers? 80% of them will put up their hand. So this figure seems very low to me, even though it's a high figure and something to worry about. It concerns us. 25% of parents are unaware of what children are doing online. 38% have seen vulgar and violent content. That's 38% of our children have seen vulgar and violent content. 50% of our children game daily, and 1 in 5 are bullied online. It's heavy, heavy statistics around this. So let's talk about where our children game and what we need to know about them. Again, I will say, I'm saying this as somebody's talking about the risk. I acknowledge all the positives in there as well. Now, the next slide, please do ensure we don't have children running around. This is their favorite app. 3 out of 4 children in the US are on Roblox. So we can assume from that data, it's the same here in Singapore. My children also enjoy Roblox. Let me explain to you what Roblox is so you have more understanding of how it works. Roblox is like your App Store or your Google Play Store. It's a platform where developers can come and create games to engage your children, to engage adults who like to game. And as a developer, what I can do is I can make money by charging for things within my game, which are paid for by Roblox Cash, right? So that's how it works. Now, as a game developer, I could be somebody with good motivation, somebody who wants to create Adopt Me or a great game like that our children enjoy. But there are people with negative motivation as well, who are creating things like the one you can see on the screen, which are Kim Kardashian sex types, Squid Games, and this one is a bar with a pole dancing scene in it. There are things like this readily one click for your children. The other issue I have with Roblox is it's incredibly easy to chat to strangers. In our industry, it is known as the pedophiles playground because we know so many young children utilize it, spend hours there, and already are in the mode of chatting to ensure that they can play the game. You can't play a game on Roblox by yourself. You are always in a setting where you are playing with others. We can keep them safer. So first of all, let me tell you about the scams that we see on Roblox. Our children are being phished and scammed on Roblox often. So they need to be able to recognize this. My kids were not allowed onto Roblox until they understood all of these things and could come and show me when they saw it. So first of all, there are a lot of Robux generators. Roblox, this is very tongue twisting, became very famous in COVID when they added the feature of Robux Cash, where us as parents could give money to the children and they could buy things within the app to up their game, to make their characters, their avatars look different to each other. Now, with that came a lot of people who are scammers who thought, how can I offer free Robux Cash to people? So one, they give me credit card details or their personal information. There are loads of these generators that are offering our children free Robux Cash, as well as fake giveaways. People who want to upskill or trade items are often pulled in and enticed by these fake giveaways that look incredibly real. These are two things our children need to be able to identify and know that you never get free Roblox Cash. There is no experience out there where that will happen. I will have my child come to me and say, but this one's real. And I have to talk through it again and talk about the motivation behind that. The other thing that happens to our kids, if their chat is not off, it is on. If you have not gone and put their chat off, they are chatting to people who are convincing them to trade items. Trading items, what will happen is when they get to the trade, they will not get the trade back. They will have given away the things that you've paid for and not received anything back, or something incredibly inferior. And then there's the normal, everyday, unfortunate case of phishing scams that come towards our children to get your information. I know from talking to your children know your passwords. If I wanted to, I could easily get them out of them if the chat feature is there. And there are many scammers out there who know that to be true. So be aware of that. Also, phishing scams often happen peer-to-peer, and that often happens from people within the classroom. So we have to be really aware of the information we're giving our children and the critical skills we're giving our kids as well. So some advice on Roblox. Ensure your children know never to enter their password in the game. The password is needed to get into Roblox, but if anyone's asking for the password for each and individual game, it is a scam to get that password from them. Never upload files onto Roblox. There is absolutely no reason to do any uploading of files, and get away from trading items altogether. How do we manage their privacy? I'm going to support you on this one and show you exactly the Roblox features of how to set it up, because I feel this is the most important one, because our children are on there. If your children aren't yet, there will be a situation where they feel they need to be, because their whole class is on there and that's their digital playground, their local community playground now. So there is a space where you will start to consider it, and you can put them in a safe space by having these conversations and setting up the settings. We don't need to be banning these apps. We need to be parenting these apps. So first of all, go over to the settings, and then you will go to the privacy. We need to click on privacy. You can see there's two lines there that will be pertinent to you, the privacy and the parent controls. First of all, I'm going to show you what it looks like to go into the privacy setting. You're going to end up in my settings, and you're going to now go and turn off all the communication. This is the most integral thing to do on this app. Who can message me? No one. Who can chat to me on this app? No one. Who can chat with me? No one. There may be a case where you then allow them to play with friends in their classroom, and you can add to friends who are added, and just make sure you monitor who those friends are, and they get permission when they add anyone. So moving on to our next point on our 6 topics we believe every child should be aware of. We're going into the age of misinformation and disinformation. Our children are not getting their news from official or authority when it comes to traditional news sources. Their news comes to them through Instagram, TikTok, and our younger generation, definitely our children from 5 onwards, are getting their news straight from YouTube, which means that they are not authentic. There is motivation behind them, and we can't really trust where they've come from if our children cannot identify what an authentic source looks like. A traditional news outlet will only publish the news once they've verified it at least twice and made sure it's true and authentic. That is not true of where our children are getting their news from. Our children are getting their news from influencers. The fact they are influencers means that they have a motivation behind their influence, and they may be looking to change minds, ensure radical thinking, and pull our children's thinking away from what we believe. Even really young children will view influencers like Preston or Mr. Beast. Not I'm saying anything's wrong with these influencers, but they do influence our child. And if we've not sat down and watched with them, we don't know what's being said or our children are learning. One of the apps I would like to highlight that we're seeing a negative influence happen is Discord. Again, as an app, it has great utility. Adults use it in a very productive manner. Many of your companies or organizations, your favorite apps will have a Discord channel. Explaining Discord is, back in the day, a chat room. You literally go into a room where you can chat to people about the community's interests, be it gaming, studying, cooking. The whole conversation will be around that. And it became big again in COVID when our children would go into a room with their friends to talk about Fortnite while they were playing it, or talk about gaming. So they would have a stream of conversation while they're playing the game. Now, as with any stream of conversation, it can get out of hand. And if our children are in any Discord server room, they will be talking to people with bad motivation, language, sharing pornography links, and extremely bad content, because Discord is not a child's app. It's not designed for children. It doesn't have parent control in it. It's up to you to know which room they're in. And the conversation is not monitored in those rooms. Is self-monitored. Any room with less than 200 people in it is not monitored at all. So we've seen fanatical thinking here. Think about it in your own life. When you watch a show on Netflix and you get obsessed with it, you want to know more about it. You'll go to YouTube, you'll watch the videos, you'll watch the interviews. We get immersed. So if our child is immersed to someone in their ear for 8 hours a day, they will start to be convinced by different thought processes. If they're using Discord, be sure you have visuals on what's happening in that room. Or if you become a parent who is a coach in the digital world or a mentor, that you give them the critical thinking skills to what's happening while you're not there. So the other thing we need to really consider when we're looking at our children's behavior online is who's controlling their behavior online. If you've been listening to me intently, which I'm sure you all have, you may have had a notification on your phone. Now, because of how we're designed as humans, we will always, like a barking dog, look down at that notification. I just realized I have one from Lazada. Now, I would think that's very important, and I'd need to read it right now. Now, our children are also being controlled by notifications and the apps in the same manner. YouTube notifications are consistently telling my children to come back and view. Why? Because they want my children to view for influence, for money, for advertising. My child does not need to be looking at that YouTube video while they're doing their homework. It's unnecessary. So again, if your child's device is in front of you, go over and turn off the notifications of all the apps. They should be ready to go to the app of their own free will and not be told to go to that app when that app wants them there. Do that for yourself as well. Turn off all your notifications and you'll realize how much more mind share you get back for yourself. The other thing that we really want to start controlling with our children, not so good controlling ourselves at it, is doom scrolling. Again, this is by design. We will continue to scroll for a long time. And that is how it's been designed, that we will just innately waste our time doing it. We need to stop this behavior with our children and with ourselves. With many of the apps like TikTok, you can switch off the scroll. YouTube, you can switch off that scrolling as well. And that will just make sure there's a more friction in it and our children don't end up in a trance. The other thing with our over 13s, I often say to my daughter who is on TikTok, you know, tell me what you watched in the last hour, right? You've been there scrolling for an hour. Do you know what you've watched? And then she'll know 1 or 2 videos, but she'll realize she didn't take in a lot of it. And then we'll really understand that we are just doing things because of behavior and habit, and it's not beneficial to us. So that's another thing that we can control for our children to make their cyber worlds more entertaining and supportive of what they want to do. Moving forward to the conversation of cyberbullying, I've touched on it a few times as we've gone through the conversation. Unfortunately, the staggering figures around cyberbullying are not reversing. And unfortunately, even in the adult world, we will see the uptick of people feeling it's okay to be a cyberbully, to put our opinions online. The comments section are often more interesting than the actual content, and we've all gone over to see what's happening. 59%, and I will often get the children to stand up in assemblies to show what that looks like of our children are being cyberbullied or face cyberbullying. 2 in 5 have been subjected to name calling, rumors online, and 23% have seen aggressive and threatening bullying. We've seen in other countries we have worked in that cyberbullying will leap out of the device to really aggressive and violent behavior within the community setting. This is something we don't want to see escalate. Now let's define cyberbullying. One of the things I find frustrating as a parent is we tell our children to tell a trusted adult, and us adults, we're not equipped to deal with it. We're like, well, what do we do now? Do we go and approach the parent? Do we tell the teacher? Do we guide the child? It's a very confusing space to navigate. So first of all, I start with the definition. Can I explain, is this cyberbullying or is it digital drama? Often my children can come to me with digital drama. It's an incident that's happened in the day. It's something that could have happened in the playground, and it comes and it burns out quickly. In that experience, I will give my child the critical thinking skills, the ability to block, switch off, or just come out of the conversation. I will guide them not to escalate it and to go back to school the next day and have a conversation and mitigate or let it die down. That happens often, and that's how I would work with it. Cyberbullying is when it's repetitive, when it's victimizing an individual over and over again, not on just one social media channel, but on others. And then it galvanizes often more than one person cyberbullying that one individual or child. This is my cue as a parent to also escalate it. Never go directly to the other parent. Every parent will defend their pet child. That's the job. So you can't have an unmotivated conversation. Also, it really doesn't help the child in the long run either. Always go to the school or go to the community or wherever the experience has happened. Have the screenshots in hand and ensure that you do it with mediation as well involved. Do not take your child's device off of them. Do not block things, because this is why our children don't report it. They feel they get punished for being cyberbullied. So ensure that they know they've done nothing wrong. They can block, they can report, they can come off that app, but they are okay in their digital space and you will support them. And then you can help them move forward with trust and do it together. One of the apps we see cyberbullying happening here is Telenym. Telenym is an app where you can give anonymous information about each other. There is an array of these types of apps. So today it's Telenym, tomorrow it'll be something else. This is really invented for the HR world, where you could tell, or if you want to tell me later how you felt this presentation went, and I didn't want to know who said what. Now, as we know as adults, no one says anything nice behind your back or anonymously. If I wanted to say something nice, I would say it now. So it has become incredibly negative and become a cyberbullying app. Even Snap has the feature of anonymous chat. Incredibly important that our children understand, even if you're saying it anonymously and you're feeling empowered, that will also lead to a negative emotion, can lead to a negative response. We have unfortunately seen way too many children who self-harm and have been known to commit suicide because of aggressive cyberbullying. We don't want our children to have liked or validated any comment that has put our child in that situation. So I will always have a critical conversation with our children about, do you need to add comment to this? Do you need to be part of this conversation? And get them to understand they really don't need to be doing that. One of the things to ask your older children is, if you were walking down the street and someone commented on what you were wearing, is that allowed? Are you allowed to do that? And all your older kids will be like, no, you can't just go up to someone and say, I don't like your dress. Now, if somebody online posts a picture of them, can you comment on their dress? And there is a confusion around that. And we've got to get an understanding of a digital community spirit as well. If you wouldn't say it to a human in real life, there's no valid reason to say it online. It will cause the same emotional harm and negative emotional intent. And we don't want to be part of that situation. So what do we do as adults? If our child comes to us, or if our child is going to get a device, give them the knowledge. Something happens to you, always take a screenshot. It's very confusing to talk to your child afterwards about the conversation because it gets mixed up. Always report and block. Whenever your child gets your new app, show them the report or the block feature on that app. It's very important for them to say cyber safe when you're not there. Tell them that you won't respond by taking the device off of them. You will respond by being a digital ally and helping them through it, and get them to speak to others. We do not talk about cyberbullying enough, so it's seen as a negative. I made it happen. It happened to me because of. It's happened to you because somebody has been mean and nasty, and you have every right to speak to others on the same. I'm going to finish the last conversation before we get into questions about grooming and paedophiles online. Unfortunately, we have made it incredibly easy for our children to be exposed to paedophiles and groomers online. We are often under the illusion that our children are safe in Singapore because we physically have a safe infrastructure. Groomers and paedophiles do not want to get caught. They are not meeting your children in real life. What they are doing is asking them for videos and photos that they now doctor and then put onto the dark web or create boards on. Our children are given away photos and videos incredibly willingly. In our book, Ready, Get, Set, Connect, which actually goes free to schools in Singapore, if your child hasn't received it, please let us know the school and we can make sure that this comes to your school for 7 to 12-year-olds. We show them this page. Now, for younger children, what we say to them is, look at the little boy. Who's he talking to? Most children don't get to a certain age that they're talking to somebody who could be lying. They don't understand that concept. So here we're saying, they're talking to someone with malicious intent, somebody who may want to physically harm them or get their photos or videos. Now, for older children who've now stepped into a gaming world, who will be exposed to strangers because they're gaming, we need them to have the critical thinking skills, become digital allies as parents, and say, you've got to recognize the red flags. You've got to understand if somebody's asking to meet, if somebody's asking to switch platforms, they're talking to you on one platform and they want you to go on an encrypted platform like Telegram or WhatsApp, that's a red flag. Someone who's telling you you are special. Your parents think you're special. We know you can be hard work and we love you anyway. The person online doesn't know all about you. They don't know you. They can't know you. They can't really understand you. This is red flags. We need our children to establish them and understand them and know the boundary and the right to block. We need to get them to critically through a red flag. So when children are going online, give them that language. Come back to mummy, daddy when you see a red flag. Show me the red flags you've seen this week. Have your friends seen any red flags? These are the red flags you should be aware of. If you do need a video of this presentation afterwards, please get in contact. We will make sure that gets to you or your community. But to keep these in mind, come over to cyberlite.org. We have all of our resources on there are for free. We are not asking you to pay for them. We have parent guides and tips. We have a great tool, which are conversation starters. All these questions I'm saying, ask your children, go over there, take some of them and start those conversations around your dinner table, and go and have a look at our parent control. We have every app up there. you can go and look at the parent control and how to set it up. I understand your frustration. Parent controls seem to be a minefield on how to set them up. We've tried to make them as simple and as approachable as possible. So I will pause, take a sip of water, and please put your questions in the box and Michelle will filter them through. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to jump in here. First of all, thank you, Nina, for that presentation. I hope you guys all found it useful. I know the most frequently asked questions that we usually get on these types of webinars is if the slides will be available or if there's a video coming of this webinar. The answer is yes. We are recording it, so you will be able to watch it on YouTube, share it with all the other parents, and share it with the school, whoever you think needs it. So next week we will send out a newsletter with the link of the YouTube channel, of the YouTube video. So please keep a lookout of that. So I'm going to kick off. I know there are a couple of questions that have come through today. The first question I got was, I want my child to be street smart and rely on Google for anything, but I'm scared of the adult content that will be exposed to him. Nina, do you have any tips for a parent?
Yeah, so what you can do is you can go on to Safe Search and ensure that you've made that a safer environment. Google do have a kids Google called Kiddle, but my kids quickly came off of it because it didn't give them what they wanted. And I think that's where we just sort of do that critical thinking skill as well of why are you clicking on that? What did you see? And make sure you just have an open channel of communication.
Yeah, I think the open channel of communication is a really good point, and that leads into the next question that we received, which is, how should I talk to my child who is 13 years old, who is already on Roblox and Snapchat? She has been upset every time I start talking. Please give me tips.
Okay, so a bit more context of what she's upset about, but she's on Roblox and she's been on Snapchat. So don't worry about trying to get her off of them, because that will become a parenting part of angst. Now, what you need her to do is understand why you're worried. Go through the apps with her and say, look, can I find this sort of behavior on there? Identify it, and then be very aware of her telling you when she sees it as well. Put her through a sort of a conversation of what features that you are okay with her using and not using, and really have that open line, and always go into these apps. My rule in my house is, if I'm paying the phone bill, I get to see your phone. You want to pay the phone bill? You can keep your phone very hidden from me. That's fine. So if you are paying the bill, you get to go on that app. You need to know the password, and that's just parenting. That's something that you need to do until you go into coaching mode. Once you're in coaching mode, you're both confident you're in the right space.
Yeah. And so we also have another parent who is asking, well, what about the primary children who are under 13, who are already on Roblox and TikTok? What can we do about that?
Right. So Roblox, most children will be under 13 who are using Roblox. So again, it's about thinking about it. Are they in a safe room? So every time they're playing on Roblox, what does the room look like? So go over, see the game that they're playing. What are the settings while they're in that room? Who can communicate to your child? Now, if they're in a room there by themselves, in terms of there's no communication, they're safe. If they can speak to their friends, monitor what they're talking about or what they're doing. Make sure your credit card is not set up to Roblox, because we've seen thousands of dollars disappear down the drain with kids just clicking. And just monitor that space is an incredibly important thing to do. TikTok you cannot have here over the age of 13. So just say mummy's actually disobeying the law and just delete the app.
And speaking of Roblox, a very similar question, and I think the advice might be very similar, is Minecraft safe for 10-year-olds?
Yeah, Minecraft is a wonderful, wonderful app. It is the Lego of the world, and it has a lot of parent controls already in there. You can go over to Microsoft and you'll see a lot of those there. If the chat function is off, if they're playing by themselves, they are literally playing Lego in their room. Think about it. If you're going out to to play in Kidsopia or somewhere like that, you're just monitoring who's around them. That's exactly what we're going to have to do in our digital world. We're just leaving them unmonitored a lot of the time.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to kind of answer. There's 3 more questions that we have, so I'll just answer in order. The first one is, are there any webinars or videos for teenagers?
We will be doing
Online safety.
Yeah, we will be doing a webinar for teenagers because it's a very different conversation. And next month we will be doing a webinar on generative AI and how that's going to affect our experiences of parenting. We always seem to be peddling as things are changing online. So keep an eye out. Please subscribe to our newsletter, and we will ensure that you either know when to come for the webinar or you get the recording afterwards.
Yeah, I'll just like to reiterate that point. If you are interested in kind of joining our future events, most of our webinars are for free, open to schools and parents, etc. And you're interested in kind of being updated and knowing what's going on in the digital landscape, please do subscribe to our newsletter that's on our site, cyberlite.org. That's where we usually kind of push out the latest updates. And like Nina said, the next one is going to be on generative AI, like ChatGPT, like DALL-E. So that should be quite an exciting conversation to have.
Michelle, a good one here that I just want to do because I know we're running out of time. Is it possible for the company to collaborate with primary schools to give us such presentations to primary school kids to educate them? As I was saying earlier, we have Ready, Get, Set, Connect, which was a book that me and Michelle wrote. This is free to all primary schools in Singapore. We've already given 140,000 of them and the talk to your children at Cyberlite. We would love to bring it to your primary school. So if you haven't seen it yet, please just again, tell us the name of your school and we'll go and approach them. They must have missed off. We also have the same type of free content for our secondary school that we work with corporations to bring to you as well. So if you'd like us to come to your school, please just let us know the school's name and who we can speak to.
Yeah, and I guess that also answers the question of the webinars for children under 12. We work directly with your schools. Most likely you would have heard about this webinar from your school. And we do give a lot of talks and workshops for students talking in their language in like age appropriate way. I'll rattle through this. I know we have maybe a minute left, but if anyone has any other questions, feel free to contact us through our website as well. So you mentioned misinformation and disinformation, which is going to be huge this year for a lot of elections, a lot of social media content now with AI kind of powered images and videos. So how can we help kids differentiate between these disinformation and misinformation?
Yeah, this is a big one, and this will be really picked up in our generative AI conversation because it has incredibly changed from what I would have said last year. Because now we're looking at a world of deep fakes. We're looking at something where we can generate fake news ourselves, and we have to stay vigilant on it. So I would say come over to that chat and we'll have that conversation there. Thank you so much for all participating today. Michelle, I'll leave it with you.
If we have time for one more question, I would really love to answer this because I think it's a really important one that we've gotten quite a few times before, which is if it's possible for my 10-year-old child to create her own YouTube channel due to the age limit. This is something that we have heard before where children want to put themselves online, especially on YouTube, because that's where they get all their entertainment from. But as they are underage, we do have our own concerns about that. So Nina, do you want to just quickly touch on why and what are the things parents should know about?
I think it's very important to really go back to those 3 parenting styles, that if your child is looking for validation or they're looking to make sure that they get something from their online space, that they have the maturity to do that. So if somebody says negative things about me online, I get very upset. You know, if you now post something about our talk, it will be something that really affects me. Our children at that age are not mentally ready for that type of negative thinking or that negative thought process. If you can back this down the line, is something they don't need in their lives right now. And we've seen a lot of mental harm come to our children. So really have that conversation with them and what your concern and worry would be, because you are allowing everyone, whether they have positive or negative motivation, have a comment on your child. So please think through that situation first. And we've been asked by the IMDA to please really put some feedback to this conversation. If you do have time, please do scan the QR code and add the feedback so they can know how we're doing here in Singapore, keeping you abreast of the issues. And we would love to bring more of this to you when you require it. Thank you very much today. If you do have a question, please do fire it off. You can contact us and I will ensure that I answer you. Or find me on LinkedIn and I can answer you directly. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.